All right, so this is going to be the next part, and honestly, probably the last part for this series, I guess, of how I got into reselling and kind of where I am now, because this should pretty much bring me about to where I am now. But on top of that, this video I'm going to focus mostly on where I am now with Whatnot and some tips for people that would like to sell on Whatnot. So on my other videos, I think I've given some good tips on avenues to resell, things to look out for, and tips and tricks and things like that. Now, this would be specifically for Whatnot. Not to say you can't use it for other things, but this is kind of like what I do and a bunch of information. This is basically a video about Whatnot, let's just say, for example. So I mentioned that I started selling magic on there, and I kind of figured out what my niche was in the mornings, and I started to get a nice little crowd there, and I started kind of opening up as a host to these shows to be, I guess, more entertaining and more welcoming, and so people enjoyed being there, not just for the packs, but maybe for the stories I was telling or just whatever atmosphere that we were creating. So the cool thing is with Whatnot is you can kind of do whatever you want, right? You're creating a show, and it's kind of like a YouTube channel. You can do whatever the hell you want with it. And if there's people that are interested in what you're doing, then they'll come along for the ride and they'll hang out with you. And if not, they won't. It's fine. Not everything is for everybody. That's why there's a bunch of different YouTube channels and TV stations and subscriptions for shows and everything. Like, it's just based on your taste. So, that's kind of my first piece of advice for anyone that wants to get into Whatnot, for example, and I tell this to people all the time that are getting into it, is try some things out and figure out what you like to do and keep doing that. So when I started, I was doing, again, back in the day, you could do pull boxes, you could do mystery boxes and wheels and all sorts of random things. You could literally like auction off like cards, like I only show on the back of it, like who knows what it is. You do a lot of random things that you really shouldn't do anymore. And I tested out all those things, pull boxes and high bid games, bounties. I tried all of it, and really, I wasn't a fan of all those things. So when we do like pull boxes or bounties or whatever, or auto boxes even, which is the now thing on Whatnot, I don't like those things, and I'm going to tell you why. This is my personal opinion, just my opinion. Everyone has their own, but I don't like things like that because, in my opinion, those, let's say you have 100 card or 100 prize auto box. Generally speaking, you're gonna have about 90 losers and 10 winners, or maybe even more, maybe like 95 losers and like 5 winners. And that's a big feel bad. And that's why I don't like doing things like that. Same thing, I used to like mystery bags too, where I had like 50 different mystery bags, and there'd be big packs or collector packs or singles in there, and who knows, kind of like those vaulted rarity things. I said before, like vaulted rarities, it's just a mystery bag. That's all it is. And again, you're probably going to have like 20 unhappy people for every happy one. That's not a good business model. It doesn't. I don't think that is good long term. It's good for like a quick flip or a quick little profit, but I don't see that as like, personally, that's not my thing. I don't like doing that kind of thing. And I realized what I like to do is opening packs. Okay, and so now on a site like Whatnot, for Magic the Gathering, for example, or it could be Pokemon or sports cards or whatever, but specifically Magic the Gathering, there's a million things you can do, but I like to do packs. Now, a bunch of people do packs. So how do you kind of stand out from being different and be different, or how do you do something that you really enjoy? And I realized what I wanted to do is, because certain people only have like a few different varieties of packs. Maybe they have the new stuff and that's it. Maybe a couple of boxes from recent sets, but that's it. And again, I'm an old school player. I played back in the early 90s. So I like those cards. So 20 years of Magic I wasn't like connected with because I didn't play with it. But then I was like old stuff and the new stuff. So I started expanding my product lines. Once I decided I was just going to do packs, I started expanding my product lines. Let me actually back up a second. Why did I start doing packs? One, because I enjoy it. I enjoy opening packs. It's a lot of fun, and anything can come from packs. That's the cool thing. If you open an old pack of Final Fantasy or whatever, like, I mean, you never know. Any pack could be that really big hit. That's what's fun about it. And the cool thing with packs is, even if you have a bad pack, you still have cards you can play with. That's the nice thing. And I always think that's what's cool about Magic the Gathering, is like, you can open a pack, you spend $5 for a pack, you can get no value like monetarily, but you can get cards you could use, or maybe find a new legendary creature to build as a commander, or get an idea for a deck or whatever. So it's always cool. And on the business side of it, okay, I realized that doing packs was the more not say responsible. It was a predictable business model, I guess is the best way to put it. And what I was able to do, because I had all these years of so basically I had all these years of reselling under my belt, things I did right, things I did wrong, and a lot of things I learned. And I was able to take all that knowledge and move it into Whatnot. When I really fell in love with it, I said, I'm gonna go in on this and do it. And I had all this information about, reading between the lines of what works and what doesn't, understanding profit margins, understanding the logistics of shipping, inventory, storage, all these parts of the reselling business. I had experienced good and bad and indifferent over the years. So I took all this knowledge, brought it into Whatnot of just my own thing. And let me preface this by saying, and I've answered this question many times. I've told people this many, many times on my channel over the years. I don't do this because it makes a lot of money. I do it because I enjoy it, plain and simple. I said many times, if I want to make a bunch of money, I would be reselling other things, not magic cards, because there can be volume with magic, but honestly, like the profit margins are usually very low. Versus when I was a reseller, like the profit margins you go for is generally 100%. You're trying to double up for everything that you buy and sell. When it comes to magic cards, I mean, again, it's a game of pennies. It really is small, and so you have to have that business sense to know what you're doing, and you really have to know your numbers. That kind of brings me to my next point of this is when you get into it, and this is like my first piece of advice I give anybody when they ask me, like, oh, if I want to make a Whatnot show, you got any advice? Because people ask me on a regular basis. And I always say, the number one thing is you need to know your numbers. Plain and simple, because most people have no idea what their numbers are. They really don't. And do you need to know it down to the penny? No, but you need to have a really good idea of what you're doing. Let me give you a good example. So again, I do packs. Okay, there's again, I probably carry around 70-ish different sets at any given time. Like, it's a lot. My ultimate goal is to pretty much have almost every set, except for probably Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, Arabian Nights. Probably never carry those, but I eventually want to carry pretty much all of them. That's the goal, which will take a long time. But when I say know your numbers, I mean know exactly what you're going to get a return for your product if you buy it. Let me give you a good example. So let's say I'm looking at a box of Modern Horizons 2 set over there. I love Modern Horizons 2 set. I think it's a phenomenal product. It's 5 years old, and the fact that it's only like $200 a box still is shocking to me because it's so good. Let's say a box of Modern Horizons 2 set costs you $200, shipped to your door from whatever ABC game store site. You're going to sell it pack by pack on your show. There's 30 packs, and you need to figure out what you need to sell it for a profit margin. The problem is, I think, is too many people, they see everyone else listing it for $10 a pack, so they list it for $10 a pack, and they have no idea what their return is. They have absolutely no idea what their gross profit margin is. They have no idea what their net income is for that, and they just completely are just guessing. That's fine at the beginning when you're just learning how the system works, but once you start getting there, it doesn't take long to figure these things out. You know what your fees are on Whatnot. It's 8% of your sale price, and another 2.9% of your full sale price plus 30 cents per transaction fee. What does that all mean? So if I sell a pack for $10 and it has $4 shipping, because that's you have the buyer pays shipping on Whatnot. So if I'm selling a pack for $10, so I'm paying 8% of that $10, and then if it's $14 for the shipping, I'm paying 2.9% of that plus 30 cents per transaction fee. Okay, I have a simple formula that I use that. Okay, that's just the fees. Never mind your shipping supplies that we talked about in other videos of, like, your envelopes, your team bags, your penny sleeves, your top loaders, your markers, everything. That's all factored in there too. I have a very specific formula that I created that breaks that all down for me. So, and again, this is why, again, I'm just kind of crazy with numbers. I like numbers like that, and I enjoy doing them and figuring them out. So I know, generally speaking, what my profit margin is on a pack of Modern Horizons 2 set, Final Fantasy Play, Double Masters Draft, Double Masters Collector. I know my profit margin to the penny because I did the math out. Like, I treat it like a business. And the best thing is I do it on the worst case scenario. Let me give you an example. So again, go back to Modern Horizons 2 set. If I buy a box of those to sell on the show, and there's 30 packs, I pretend that I do the math as if I'm going to sell one pack to one person on one show 30 times. So that means 30 team bags. That's 60 top loaders, because I do 2 top loaders, in a team bag, 1 bubble mailer, 1 penny sleeve, all that. So when I sell multiples, all those extra supplies that cost 5 cents here, 10 cents there, whatever it is, that's actually just added to my profit line at the end. Okay, that's how that works. So I calculate the worst case scenario gross profit margin, and that's what I base it on. That's never accurate because, again, I plan on the worst case scenario. You have to plan the worst case scenario. Anything extra is a bonus. You have to realize that. You figure that out at the end of the year or the month or however you do your inventory or your accounting or whatever. But again, plan worst case scenario, understand what the fees are, understand what your shipping costs are, understand what your supply cost is. Another big cost that people don't take into account, especially early on, is their giveaway fees, their giveaway costs. This is something that I always stress to new sellers because it's tough too. Because if you're a new seller, you're trying to get traction in your channel and your show. You're trying to get people in there to spend some time in there, and ultimately to get a label. Because once they get a label, then they've already spent that initial like $4 for shipping after like the first pack or whatever. Then they're more willing to spend more if they've already got a label going on, right? So people do a lot of giveaways, especially if they're new. Here's the problem again, where I see people really don't know their numbers, in my opinion, is because let's say someone's just selling draft packs of a new set. They're selling play boosters of Final Fantasy for $9 a piece or whatever they're selling them for. And let's say you figure out that you're making $1 profit per pack. Okay, so you say, I'm making $1 profit per pack. And every five sales, we're going to do a giveaway. People do this all the time. Every 5 sales, I'm going to do a giveaway. Okay, so you sell 5 packs, you make $5 profit. Then you do a giveaway of a pack. And you spent $4 for that shipping, and then your $7 cost in the pack or whatever it is. Now you're just in the hole. And I see this happen a lot with people. And my suggestion always is do giveaways. That's fine, but do it for a special reason. Do it for if someone raids into you, or if you have a special moment happen, something really cool, or if you feel like being generous at that moment, sure, go ahead. But so many people absolutely kill their profit margins and lose a lot of money doing that. You can make a 3-hour show, sell for a couple boxes of Final Fantasy play boosters, but you actually lost money because you did 10 giveaways. That's what I mean. So if you gain pennies, there's very little margin. Most people don't realize that if you sell a box of, say, again, let's go back to MH2 set, 30 packs, most of those sales from that box is getting back your capital of the cost of the box. And the profit is probably like 4 packs at the very, very end. Most people don't realize that. Here's a good example, and I've actually got I have a box of Revised coming in. So I'm recording this on June 8th, but I'm probably gonna release this like a week and a half later. But either before this video or after, I'm gonna have a mail day of a Revised box. Okay, I'm getting a Revised box in. They're extremely expensive. And they sell pretty good. I usually go through a box in about 2 months. So my entire profit margin on that whole box of 36 packs that costs like $9,000 plus is literally like 3 to 4 packs of cards. That's it. So you have to sell. So you sell through 32 packs of that Revised box, which could take you 2 months. You just broke even. That's all you're at. You're at the break even. So if you think you're gonna like give one of these away or sell an auction for $1, don't do that. Trust me, that's when you lose all your capital, is just in just a few packs. So keep that in mind, as like I said, when you're doing your numbers. Also, as far as doing your numbers, you need to know your inventory. Keeping your inventory is very important. You need to know what you have because you need to know what the value of your inventory is. But also, you don't want to run out. You don't want to run short, just like shipping supplies. But you also don't want to sell something you don't have. I made this mistake a few times. It's tough, again, with like 100 different products that I carry. Every once in a while, maybe once every like 3 months, this random occasion, someone will buy a Doctor Who collector pack, and I'll have miscounted or somehow made a mistake, and like I got to refund it. It happens, but try to like, have it happen as little as possible. It's just one of those things. It's easy, especially with a lot going on and products everywhere and giveaways. You can lose track of things. It can happen. So going back to like that Revised box or other inventory, for example, when I'm talking about any box that takes 80% of the box, maybe more, to get your capital back before you even start to get into profit, you have to know how quick you can turn your inventory, and ideally you want to turn it as quick as you can while still making the profit margin you're happy with. Now, that's why what I do with the formula that I have, I'm very open and honest about this on my channel, is I have a very specific gross profit margin that I use for my show. It's my goal. It's my target goal. Sometimes I go lower. Sometimes it's a little bit higher. It's never much higher, though, because if it's much higher, I could drop it a little bit. For example, if a pack of Revised is like that box Revised, for example, is less than my regular gross profit margin, because otherwise the packs would be way too expensive. But I'm happy with the return. It is what it is. But certain things, if you're selling a pack for, say, $9 versus $10, a lower end pack, like a $9 or $10 sale, sometimes if you have, say, 30 packs in a box, that's a $30 swing for the case of for the overall cost of the box and your overall return. So that $30 on a box that costs you 150, it's a big percentage change. I mean, that's about 20%. It can change either way. So if determine if you're going to take a little bit extra than that gross profit you want, or a little below, based on whichever price point you want to go for. It's a personal preference. It's whatever you want to do. If you sell lower packs, if you sell packs at a lower price at a high or lower gross profit, you can do more volume because people might go to you. But you also have to be an entertaining channel. You have to be, enjoyable to watch. People have to want to go to you because, especially in right now when Final Fantasy is coming out right now, and it's all everyone's carrying is Final Fantasy. Why are they buying your Final Fantasy collector pack versus mine versus theirs versus hers versus whoever? And you know, it can be tough. It can be tough when you're in a time slot where there's 20 people selling the exact same thing, and everyone has different prices. This person has it for 80. This one's 75. This one's 85. This one's 60. And you'll wonder why some people don't buy from. I sold my first Final Fantasy collector boxes the other day on here, and I beat everyone's prices. That was my goal. Is everyone's selling for like 75, 80 flat rate, like listed price, not the auctions, and I listed mine for 72. And it was funny because when I first did my show, it was about a half hour before anyone even jumped in and grabbed one. And everyone's even commenting like, dude, you have the cheapest prices on whatnot. I was like, well, yeah, I have to try to stand out a little bit if I can. Because you're offering the same product. You know, I always say, are you paying for the product or for the entertainment or both? Think of that too when you're shopping on whatnot. It's kind of one of those things. So let's go back to that revised box for a minute. So the reason I got this will actually be my third revised box I've done on my channel. I remember the first time I got one, I was extremely nervous because I spent about $9,000 on it, and it was like all the capital I had, and I'm like, oh shit! Like if I can't sell this, I'm in big trouble. Like it's gonna lock up all my capital for a long time. Luckily, I sold it in about a month and a half, so it went really quickly. I was very happy with it. I got a second one, which was actually, I think, even riskier because my thought was like, you know what, like 10 different people got this like sealed as like a cool part of their collection because it came from a sealed box from a trusted source. So they're not going to buy anymore. And so I got to see if the second one sells. Second one sold in about 2 months. So I was like, okay. And then I haven't seen good prices for a while, but recently someone messaged me directly. It was a private sale. They said, hey, I got a revised box. If you want it, I know what your price point is. I can match that. Right away, I was like, done. No negotiations. I said, that's a perfect price point. I said, let's do it. And it's already, we made the purchase like right away. But my point is with something like that is if you buy a product for your show that locks up a lot of capital, you better have a second or third avenue to sell it. Because if you're a new seller, okay, let's say you're a brand new, and I saw this happen before. Quick little tangent of a story. I saw someone, it was a revised box. I went on their show and they had a revised box, and it was cheap. They were doing like $275 a pack from a fresh box. Mine are like 300, maybe like 320. It all depends on what your gross profit margin, what you want and all that. But they were selling for $275 a pack. Great deal for a sealed revised pack from a box. Is a great deal. Here's the problem. They started their stream, ripped the box open, and displayed it. Now they have an open revised box. Big problem. And no one bought any. And now this person probably spent $9,000 or more on this box. They opened it before they even made a sale. Like, now that the show's over, if you're not a trusted seller, if you don't have another avenue to move that, now you just have an open revised box. That's not a good thing because you can't sell it whole like that. No one's going to buy a box that's open for like, unless it's a super discount, they're going to think they're searched. So you got to sell it on your show. So now he's locked in. What I do is, my suggestion for everything is I have, whenever I buy anything for my show, number one, I don't mind sitting on things long term. If I get stuck with a box for a while, it is what it is. I'm at a point now where I can sit on something, it's fine. But you should have a second avenue or a second or third, because if you get stuck with, say, a $9,000 revised box and you cannot sell it, it's good to have an out. If it's a quick out, that's fine. You get your money back, you move on, you do something else. But like I have like probably last time I had a revised box, I tell everybody my rule is for a box like that is because I want to get my capital returned pretty quick. The first month, 30 days, is exclusively on my Whatnot channel, period. For 30 days, if you guys want a fresh pack, you'll see everyone ripped open. That's the deal. After that, I let everyone know I'm going to start selling it elsewhere and cross listing it. That's how I can sell a couple on Facebook, a couple on TCG Player, a couple wherever, and I can start to get some of my account back a little bit quicker. Because again, if you're down 9, 10 grand on a box like that, you don't want to sit on that for a year. That's way too much capital, unless you can afford to sit on 10 grand, just sitting there wasting away for a year. But I would rather not. I would rather have it at least. I would take a lower return to move it quicker if need be. But you have to kind of make those decisions. Those are those business decisions that you kind of have to make. So while my main selling place is Whatnot, I also do sell sometimes on Mercari. I do sell on TCG Player. I do sell on Facebook. I do buy listing. I got my little list right here. eBay, of course. So if I have a box revise coming in, this could happen, let's say I sell like 10 packs out of it, or even one. Worst case scenario, you sell one pack, you crack the box open, you sell one pack, and then nothing. It doesn't sell at all for another 2 months, and you're just stuck there. That's when you guys start selling it elsewhere. Just kind of like get back to the capital what you can, get the return that you can, and sometimes you just move on from it. Try not to sell things at a loss. You might hear people say like, "Oh, sell at a loss for tax purposes." I'm not a tax advisor. This is not tax advice. This is not financial advice. I never intentionally sell anything for a tax loss. I think that, personal opinion, I think that's stupid. I made a whole video a couple months ago about taxes. When I first started this channel about 2 months ago, I made a video about taxes. I suggest checking it out. It's a cool story I had for mine. Again, I'm not a tax advisor, but it's one of those things. But try not to sell things at a loss and try not to justify, say, oh, it's a tax loss. No, it's a loss. So you're losing money. Like the point of a business is to make money, not lose money. So sometimes you have to take a loss, but don't ever intentionally sell things for a loss. Again, my personal opinion, not advice. Do what you want to do. So anyways, going back to what I was saying before, I realized taking all this information, taking all this knowledge I had of reselling, bringing it to Whatnot and doing this, it's helped me. And I realized what my goals were. Once I started setting some goals for myself on Whatnot was, I really want to do packs and I really want to go wide. So again, trying to get as many packs sets as possible. That's always my goal, because the way I look at it is you walk into a random LGS, an average one, and they're not going to carry 8th edition. They're not going to probably have any Brothers War collectors anymore. They're not going to have any Fallout collectors, New Phyrexia, Core 21 collectors, Conspiracy Take the Crown, Modern Masters 25. I'm sorry, Modern Masters 15. Unhinged, all these sets. Like, I want to be like a virtual LGS, and that's the fun part, is because I would have people go like, "Hey, do you have this set?" And I'd be like, "Nope," but I would listen to them and I'd be like, "Well, let me go look at a box." And that's when you start to again, know your numbers. You got to compare the pack price versus the box price. And so many times I'm telling you guys that there's opportunities that you just have to look for them. You can find them pretty easily, because I'm not an LGS. I'm not a brick and mortar store. I'm a regular person that buys things on the open market like anybody else. And you can find opportunities, for example, like maybe on a TCG Player, pack prices are really high, but box prices are low, and the math works out. So there's kind of like a little bit of an arbitrage situation there that can help you out if you're a seller. Because then you can really undercut things, and that's the price it honestly should be. I remember when I first started carrying Modern Masters 15, it was a master set I never carried before, but the packs were like $25 on TCG Player, but the boxes were like $300. I go, well, that math doesn't add up. And so I remember I did mine. I bought the box for whatever it was and sold the packs for like $15. I was like, why, that $25 a pack isn't a realistic price. And so you realize, like, you can totally, the market's just wrong. And so you have to kind of fix it, and, so I kind of want to do all those packs and do all that and move in that direction. And like I said, what I like about doing it that way is it's very predictable. Even when things sit for a long time, based on your purchase price, and then once you list it and it sits there and it just waits and gathers dust, you will have your profit margin in line with because you chose your sale price. The fees don't change. Your shipping supplies really don't change, as far as that's a fixed. The shipping supplies, fees, those are fixed costs. Your variable cost really is just like the cost of the box, if it changes between different boxes you buy. But there isn't really many variable costs. They're all pretty fixed. So I don't mind sitting on, again, especially collector boxes nowadays. I have no problem sitting on any collector boxes. It doesn't matter what it is, except for Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow. I'll never carry those anymore. Those are just terrible. Then they may skyrocket in price. I don't care. I'll miss that boat. There's nothing special about them anymore. All those cards are reprinted. But I realized, going wide with that was the way I wanted to go. And that it takes time, and you have to do a lot of trial and error. And that's one of the best things you can do, though, is trial and error. So many times I've tried to get a box, or I've gotten a box on the show, and it's like, all right, let me get a box of this and let's sell it and see how it goes. And whatever ABC magic set, and like it just sits there and doesn't sell. Okay, well then you have a choice again. You can fire sell it, take your loss, and then move on, and you can build that capital back up with different products from that revenue, or you can just wait. And now I used to kind of like be impatient, like, all right, let me just fire sell this, move on to the next thing. And now that I've decided to try to carry as many products as possible, I just wait. Does that lock up a lot of capital? Yes. Does it take up a lot of room? Yes, it does. But I don't go as deep with products anymore. Like I used to get like, there was one time I think it was like Double Masters 2022 draft boxes. There's a store had a deal on them, and I bought like 25 or 30 or whatever it was. Like I stocked up for a long time, but it locked up a lot of capital, and they weren't selling. So I moved a bunch of sealed boxes. So I don't go like that deep into products anymore because I figure I can always just grab more later on down the road. Hopefully before price moves, but prices will always continue to move. That's just how the world works. But then I get less of them. So basically, like say, usually what I do now is like if a set comes out, new set comes out, I try to aim for like a master case of collector boxes, so about 24 boxes. That's usually my goal for release. It's enough for like that pre-release week, sell a bunch there. The next couple of weeks you sell a little more, but it kind of dies down a little bit. But you probably get down to about 6 boxes left, so you get a little bit of inventory at the original price you can kind of hold on to for a little while. And that makes me keep the price the same. I like that. And then if use the next wave, I'll get like 6 more boxes. I'll continue to get like 6 boxes of a set, like a case, for a while until it spikes. Then when you have like a Fallout situation, a Lord of the Rings Special Edition situation like that, Ravnica Remastered now when it gets to that point, the Wilds of Eldraine's, Bloomburrow, now sets like that, I'll buy 1 box, maybe 2. Like a Lord of the Rings Special Edition box, it's already spiked. It will continue to go up. There's no question that whatsoever. But why lock up if they cost almost $2,000 a piece? Why buy 6 boxes at $12,000 when it's going to take you a year to sell that? Just buy 1 box. I bought a Lord of the Rings Special Edition box probably 2 months ago, and I sold 2 packs in the first week. Yesterday morning, I sold like 3 packs to one person, and it's gonna sit there for a while. Like no one's gonna touch it for a while, so you're locking up like that $2,000 for a month or two. Like that's just a guarantee. So why lock up more when you really don't have to? Don't lock up capital that you don't have to. The difference is if you have a good deal. If you have a good deal, like a really killer deal, and you can lock in those profits for a while, that's a different scenario. So you have to do that. It's a judgment call, case by case basis on how you want to do that. You have to say like, all right, am I okay if this capital gets locked up for a year or 2 years or whatever? And you don't want that to happen, because then you're really just speculating. I did that. I've actually have a product over there that I speculated on, and it's a bad speculation. It's going to sit there. It's going to gather dust. It probably won't move for a year. I'm not going to say what it is. It doesn't really matter. But it's a product I spent about $1,500 on, and it's not going to do a thing for a year. It's going to sit there. I'm not going to sell it at a loss. I will just wait. It is what it is. Even if I get like a 10% return after a year, it's still a good return when you think about it. I mean, it's not amazing. You're not going to get rich on it, but it's a little bit of a return. And that's the biggest thing is take those small returns and keep moving forward and keep moving forward. And when it comes to like the whatnots, those sites like that, do what you enjoy. And I always say the like-minded people will come to you. And that's kind of what happened with my channel is I try to create a good, positive environment. I try to give the best prices I can. It's honest. We try to have a good time, and we have a great crew in there, and we've just cultivated this culture of it's just awesome, and I absolutely love it. So that's where I'm at now. Again, I've skipped a million parts, but I'm probably going to leave it there. So if you guys have any questions about like whatnot or whatever reselling, let me know in the comments. Pop on my whatnot show. Like I said, I'm happy to talk about whatever. I love talking about this kind of stuff, whether it be small business stuff or talking numbers or whatever. I really enjoy it. We've had so many times in shows where and we've got some people in there that are very smart business people, really, that have given me some incredible advice. So if you're ever curious, come and ask me questions. Like we love having those conversations. They're a lot of fun, and people learn, and we like to learn from each other. So I think that just about wraps for the most part. There's a million other things I could talk about, but I mean, I think I've talked long enough. But yeah, I think if someone wants to get into that world of reselling, or if you're just looking to make a couple extra bucks to pay off some bills or whatever, I recommend checking out reselling. Start slow, learn. Don't go heavily into debt buying product. Do not do that. Build it with the capital you have. Build it with the cash you have. Do not go into debt buying inventory for your business. Some people do that, but it just adds risks, and I don't see the need for it. Just build it steadily, slowly over time. Do what you want so you enjoy it. And if it's something you don't like, change it up. If it's something that's not working, change it up. Don't make rash decisions based on emotions. Look at the numbers and do it as properly as you can. There was one more part that I talked about before that I'll kind of end this with, I guess. There's one little last thing. The biggest game changer for me ever was when I officially treated it like a business and turned it into a business. This is June 2025. I'm talking last January, a year and a half ago. I think everyone gets, okay, if you're going to start a business or get into a hobby, whatever it is, you have a hobby and you're starting to do really well with it. Hobby's doing well, it's making some money, your gross sales are really high, and your revenue and your profits are really good. Eventually, you're gonna get to a point where you have to outsource some help. No, so before, for all these years, I was my own accountant, I was my own, bookkeeper, I was my own everything. And then last January, I made a decision. I saw my numbers creeping up a little bit. And I said, I'm not comfortable doing these anymore by myself. So I hired a bookkeeper. I hired a lawyer to form my LLC. I did all that. And that was the best thing I ever did. It was absolutely the smartest thing I ever did because that's when it really turned around on me. So there's actually another person that hangs out in my Whatnot show. We were talking the other day. They were actually asking my advice about the LLC thing and the business, the bookkeeper and all that. I said, sure. I said, I can tell you from my experience. I said, I can't give you advice, but I can tell you what I've done. And, we talked for like an hour or so about my suggestion. And I said, if you're getting to a point where the numbers start getting big and almost scary or you're nervous, I go hire a bookkeeper, form an LLC, get a lawyer, have those things in your back pocket. I said, because once you have those things done, you outsource all that work. All you can do now is the fun part of the reselling or ripping the packs or whatever it is you're doing, whatever your hobby is that you want to turn into a business. Never be afraid to spend money on your business to better your business. I always say, one thing my father taught me years ago was he has no problem wasting money. No, he has no problem spending money, just hates wasting money. And that's the way I look at it. I have no problem spending money on something that's worth it, but when it's wasting it, that's a problem. And so when it comes to, if I want to do something for my business, if it's a purchase, say like if it's something like a office equipment, like a table or a computer or whatever, if it's necessary, it's necessary. It has to be done. If it's a bookkeeper, if it's a lawyer, if it's, legal forms to form an LLC or whatever, and you feel that you should go that route, then you probably should go that route. If you don't know what to do, ask somebody who's been there. Call a lawyer up, call a tax accountant up. They will guide you through it. You got to realize, like, they deal with these people that have no idea what they're doing every day. That's why they exist. That's why people pay them to do that job. So don't ever feel like you're lost or whatever. Ask for help. And once you do, you realize that it can be so much easier, so much better, and you can really start to move forward. So I think I'm going to wrap up this series now. Again, I covered basically my whole reselling career for the most part, some ups and downs, a lot of things I've learned and whatever. I hope some people can get something from this. I hope some people enjoy these videos. I'll probably give some more tips and things like that down the road. But again, the biggest things, especially if it comes to like Whatnot or whatever, know your numbers, do what you like so that you enjoy it every day. It shouldn't feel like work.